Today, the whistleblower, Dr. Richard Bright, testified before the Senate, and he had a lot to say. He started off with a warning about what could end up happening if we don't take our advice from the right people.
Better planning, 2020 could be the darkest winter in modern history. First and foremost, we need to be truthful with the American people. Americans deserve the truth. The truth must be based on science. We have the world's greatest scientists. Let us lead. Let us speak without fear of retribution. We must listen. Each of us can and must do our part now. We must increase the public education about the basics: washing hands, social distancing, appropriate face covering. They're simple but critical steps to buy valuable time until there's vaccine. We need to ramp up production of essential equipment and supplies, including raw materials and critical components. Shortages of these increase the risk of our frontline healthcare workers, and they deserve the best equipment to protect themselves. We need to facilitate equitable distribution of essential equipment and supplies. And finally, we need a national testing strategy. Initially, our nation was not as prepared as we should have been, as we could have been. Some scientists raised early warning signals that were overlooked, and pages from our pandemic playbook were ignored by some in leadership.
So what you saw there seemed incredibly reasonable, but he did say that we weren't as prepared as we could have been, as we should have been, and for that reason, he was already being attacked as he was testifying, and I have imagined it will only get worse as the day continues.
Yes. Main point there is we weren't as prepared as we should have been. And as he explained, we needed 3.5 billion masks, and they would not order them. I did a live video about this on YouTube earlier in the day. Jared Kushner apparently told Trump, don't listen to the doctors. If you order more medical equipment, it will affect the stock market. So that's the kind of callous monsters they are. And by the way, the stock market crashed anyway, you ghoul, you goblin, you idiot. So you got the worst of all worlds.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I won't go on, but like the sheer number of people that have died and that will die today and will die tomorrow and 1,000 will die. How many days into the future? Maybe 10, 30, 100? I don't know. But it's one thing for us to say it could have been stopped, but it could have been stopped so easily. If only these monsters, absolute monsters in human skin, or in the case of someone like him, kind of human skin, hadn't stepped in to stop the government from protecting these lives. And that's why it's so frustrating. Like we've talked throughout this hour about the Democratic response and how invisible they are and how dispassionate they are and how the legislation is a combination of half measures and ridiculous waste to lobbyists and corporations and things like that. And it just, like, I've hated politics for a long time, but I've never hated it as much as I do right now, that I feel like I am surrounded by people that fundamentally don't care about something that should horrify everyone every second of every day until we fix it. And no one in power wants to do anything, either because they're incompetent or evil or just want to protect the stock market, apparently, in the case of the masks. And those who are currently out of power and trying to get back into it, they care more, I guess, but they are 100% bungling this, wasting the opportunity. It is so thoroughly demoralizing every day seeing how this is rolled out.
Okay, real quick. CNN and MSNBC think they're being tough on him, playing patty cakes. If Obama was president right now and we had these body bags, or Hillary Clinton was president, you'd have a running death count on the screen at all times on Fox News, and it would keep going up as the deaths mounted. Right? Is that happening anywhere else? Nope. Democrats, you know what the German model is. I presume some of you know what the German model is and how great a job Germany did in containing coronavirus. It was based on having medical equipment and testing and containing in the ways that John described. A lot of people in power know that. You know how many real Americans know that? None. Zero. They've never heard of the German model. Never, ever heard of it. Why? because idiot Democrats never made their case. They never told anybody about it. If we had done the German model, we would have saved tens of thousands of lives. We didn't, and no one knows it.
You know, and I would say, honestly, I know that we're critical of both the media and the Democratic Party, but like as largely ineffective as the media has been, I feel like they've been better than the Democratic Party.
Yes.
Like there are random reporters asking tougher questions of Trump and revealing how little he cares about anything that's happening on a daily basis, better than all of the appearances I've seen of Nancy Pelosi through the course of the pandemic, honestly. And I know that she's just one, but Chuck Schumer probably is worse, honestly. Joe Biden, for a variety of reasons, which we have described in detail, is mostly invisible. And when he's not, you kind of wish that he was again. Like the media, as bad as they are, as low as the bar as they have set, has been so much better than the Democratic leadership. There are people who have been great, don't get me wrong. They're just not in Democratic leadership. And as long as Democratic leadership is around, they will never get close to it. But for the most part, there are so few people that we can look to that actually seem to grasp the severity of the situation we're in, that we've already been through and that we still face because of the ongoing war on the war against coronavirus that the administration is currently prosecuting.
All right, let's hear more from the person who unfortunately is no longer part of the administration.
I'll never forget the emails I received from Mike Bowen and indicating that our mask supply, our N95 respirator supply was completely decimated. And he said, we're in deep, the world is, and we need to act. And I pushed that forward to the highest levels I could in HHS and got no response. And from that moment, I knew that we were going to have a crisis for our healthcare workers because we were not taking action. We were already behind the ball. That was our last window of opportunity to turn on that production to save the lives of those healthcare workers, and we didn't act.
God, geez, so sad. And obviously hundreds of healthcare workers have died.
Apparently, other people in the administration were annoyed with Dr. Bright for saying, we've got to go right now. We've got to get masks. We've got to get medical equipment. This thing is coming. It's like being mad at a guy in one of the towers on 9/11 for screaming, we got to get out of the building. And they're like, oh, my God, you got to fire that guy. He's causing a ruckus. No, sometimes you got to get out of the building. Yeah. And we didn't have the mess. Here's more from Dr. Bright.
In each of these alerts, and there were dozens of these alerts, I pushed those forward to our leadership at ASPR, to Dr. Kadlec and his senior leadership team. I pushed those warnings to our critical infrastructure protection team. I pushed those warnings to our strategic national stockpile team, who has the responsibility of procuring those medical supplies for our stockpile. In each of those, I was met with indifference.
So let me be clear. There was 300 million masks in the stockpile. The report that Dr. Bright is referring to was not written by the Obama administration. Don't worry, it's not part of Obamagate, okay? It was during the last Republican administration. Bush's administration wrote a report saying if there is a pandemic, we must have 3.5 billion masks. Otherwise, it'll spread like wildfire. So Dr. Bright, in another Republican administration, Trump's, says, guys, we have the report. We know what we're supposed to do. For God's sake, let's buy the masks. Let's buy them. And he probably couldn't understand why they're not buying the masks. But we know now, Trump, hearing Kushner's advice and others, thought, oh, no, if we buy masks, the stock market might panic.
Yeah.
So let's at least take the chance that tens of thousands of Americans are going to die. Well, yeah. They took that chance, and that's exactly what happened. Now it's going to be, unfortunately, hundreds of thousands.
You know, we've talked often about the disparity and how Benghazi was talked about and how this was talked about. And the idea with Benghazi was that Clinton didn't take it seriously, like there were warnings, but she ignored them. And so 4 people died. Like, imagine if she had been warned about the oncoming attack for a couple of months. And all she had to do was send them a couple of masks. And she didn't do that, and 4 people died. Imagine how mad they would be. They had months to just spend government money. Trump didn't have to learn to do surgery or anything like that. There was no danger to him. All he had to do was buy some masks and make them available, take it a little bit seriously, warn people, be honest with the American public. It was so easy. It was so obvious. And they refused to do it for a variety of reasons. And every one of those reasons is horrific.
Yeah, and in the midst of all that, he said at one point, I could have been a doctor. The doctors are amazed at what I know. Meanwhile, the actual doctors in the administration are like, buy masks. The simplest thing you could possibly do. He's like, no, I know what I'm doing. We're not going to buy the masks. And he said, maybe I should have been a doctor instead of doing what I did. I'm so good at it. World-class idiot is our leader in the middle of one of the worst crises we've ever had. And yes, the media is definitely culpable, because look at how much time they spent on Hillary Clinton's emails. Hillary Clinton's emails is not 1% of 1% of 1% of 1% of the problem that coronavirus and Donald Trump's response has been to it. But yet, if you watch the American media, you'd think that Hillary Clinton's emails were just as important as hundreds of thousands of Americans dying because of the president's incompetence.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.